Hey, what's going on? This is Thomas Denzi with Combat Sports Coverage. And on this edition, I'll be doing a pre-fight show for Bellator 220, which will be taking place this Saturday night, May 27th, which we'll see a stacked Bellator card. I believe it's one of their best cards they have put on all year. They have many UFC vets, and they have 2 title fights, plus they have the last round of their Bellator 170-pound Grand Prix. Some of these fighters that we'll see on the card are champion Rory Macdonald, UFC vets like Jon Fitch, Phil Davis, Benson Henderson. Like I said earlier, Rory Macdonald. We'll also see Bellator's 125-pound champion Mick Freeland taking on Ortega. And don't forget, Gaston, the Dream Killer, the best striker we have right now in MMA, will also be on this card. In the main event, we'll be seeing the final round of the Bellator 170-pound tournament. Well, the first round ending of the tournament, where we'll see longtime UFC vets battling each other. We'll see Jon Fitch taking on Bellator's 100-pound, 70-pound champion, Rory Macdonald. And this, like I said, will be for the Bellator 170-pound Grand Prix tournament. And I think this fight has fireworks written all over it. I'm a huge fan of both these guys. I followed both their careers long time in the UFC, which I bet a lot of you also did. Jon Fitch has kind of, fallen off a little bit, but he's back in his winning ways. And Rory Macdonald, his last fight, he moved up in weight class and he fought for Bellator's 185-pound title against Gegard Mousasi, which he pretty much got his ass beat, let's be real. But other than that, Rory Macdonald has been in a tear in Bellator, but his last fight, it did take it out of him. He did lose pretty bad to Gegard, and we'll see if that's going to affect him in this fight or not. Like I said, Jon Fitch has been on a tear lately, and so we'll see. In my honest opinion, I think that last beating that Rory took is going to take it out of him. How much I hate to say it, because I'm a huge fan of Rory. He's also a fellow Canadian like me, so I always got to show support for those Canadian fighters out there. But I think Jon Fitch is going to just out-wrestle him and be a little bit too aggressive and just grind on him all fight. Roy's had a lot of problems with his nose. And I don't know if he can win this fight. I do feel like he is the better fighter and he is more well-rounded, but mentally Jon Fitch seems to be in a great spot right now. And Rory, after his last fight, it was a bad beating. So we will see what happens. I hope Rory wins, but I think Jon Fitch is probably going to pull it off. But we'll see. In the co-main event, we will be seeing the 125-pound champion, Mick Freeland, taking on Ortega. And I honestly think Hawaii's own Mick Freeland, the champion of Bellator's 125-pound women's division, I think she will steamroll Ortega and definitely get a win, if not a second-round finish. Also on this stacked Bellator 220 card, we will see other UFC vets like Benson Henderson, who is a former UFC 155-pound champion. And we'll also see guys like Phil Davis, who was a UFC top 205 contender when he was in the division. Let's start off with Phil Davis versus Liam McGregor, which is a second time these guys have fought. Both these guys are former 205-pound Bellator champions. Phil Davis actually beat McLeeman to win the belt when he won the belt. He actually took the belt away from Lehman when he won the belt. I think Phil Davis will most likely win this fight again, but it will be a war. McGregor is a very well-rounded fighter. He can box. He also has great submissions and good cardio, and I believe he's like super tall. He's like 6'6". But I think Phil Davis is going to be a little bit too well-rounded and have too good of wrestling for this fight. Just like they did in the first fight. I think Phil Davis is just going to out-wrestle him and get the win. As for Benson Henderson, the former UFC 155-pound champion, he'll be taking on AKA's top prospect, Adam Piccolotti. who a lot of people are building him up, saying that he's going to be a really big thing in Bellator. Don't get him confused with Adam Pico. This is Adam Piccolotti, a different fighter, and he's fighting Benson Henderson on this card. And I think Benson Henderson will get the win. I think probably by third round TKO. If not, it's going to be a decision. I think he's going to grind him out. I just think Benson Henderson has a little bit too much experience, and he's a little bit too well-rounded for this kind of up-and-comer Piccolotti. And to kick off this amazing Bellator 220 card, we will see the USA's top striker, which I believe is the best Muay Thai and kickboxing striker we have right now in the United States in his weight class, Gaston, a.k.a. Dream Killer, and he'll be taking on Stallone, which I love that last name. That's a great last name to have, Stallone. But I think Gaston, the Dream Killer, striking is going to be way too much for Stallone. I think he's going to pick him apart and hopefully get another high right reel knockout. Not Stallone, but Gaston, the Dream Killer. He's one of the U.S. top strikers, and he's now in MMA. I believe his record is 4-1 as a professional MMA fighter. He's only been fighting professionally in MMA, I believe, for maybe a year or two. He never had any amateurs. He was just such a high-level kickboxer, Muay Thai fighter. He just came into MMA. He was a former Lion Fights Muay Thai champion, and this guy is something special. You definitely want to keep your eyes out on him, especially if you love striking. He has some of the cleanest strikings. He has a lot of KOs by spinning back elbow and flying knees. You definitely want to tune in for this fight. Hey y'all, make sure to check out our sponsors, Elemental CBD, and use coupon code Combat Sports Coverage to save 10% on your order.